It's the Dr. Cloud Show, and that really means it's the you show because this is all about you because you call me and then we talk and we hang out. And then it becomes about everybody else because everybody else gets to listen in to what you talk about. And then they go, whoa, I got a mother-in-law like that. I got a father-in-law. Hey, I didn't know. Wow. A lot of these issues we talk about on this program, everybody can relate to in some form or fashion, usually, even though your context may be different. Who doesn't know what, rejection or betrayal or making mistakes or being with people that make too many mistakes is like? We can all identify with that. So call me 844-940-2774. Sounds like a high school cheerleader. 844-940-2774. Anyway, 844-940-2774 is the number to call. I have been on the road now for a long time if you're a regular listener or viewer. The longer I stay on the road, the more my brain gets kind of frazzled because I miss my wife. I miss my dog. I miss my own bed. Anyway, but at least I'm not lost out here in the universe too much because God's always there, and then I can find you guys as regularly as I can. So it's good to be with you. Next week, I will be back at home. For those of you who've been following my travails, surgery number 3 coming up on Tuesday. So maybe third time's a charm, and I'll get back to feeling somewhat normal. So anyway, that happens next week. I'll miss a couple of days, at least one day. I know I won't be talking to you from the OR because I'll be hopefully dead asleep when they do the internal amputation of my leg, as my surgeon referred to it. But I will wake up. They promised me, because the anesthesiologist, as he told my dad, he said, how much are you going to charge me to put me to sleep? He said, put you to sleep for free. I'm going to charge you to wake you up. So I'm going to pay my bill, and he's going to wake me up, and then we will be back together when my consciousness is higher than the level of drugs in my head, and then we'll do that. All righty. Quick announcement. It is coming down to the wire on Monday night. This coming Monday night, we have a 2-hour webinar called When Family Hurts, Breaking the Destructive Patterns. We're going to be talking about families and the way they ought to work and what happens when they don't. And when they don't, because they're so important, there is pain. And when families don't work well, there is pain. And so that may be your immediate family. It may be your extended family. Maybe different generations or the same generation as you. Maybe your siblings, adult siblings, can be difficult at times for anybody, both ways, one way, whatever. It's a tough deal. Maybe you have what they call an adult child. Funny term, adult child, but you know what I'm talking about. That you don't quite know how to be family with an adult child, because they're really not a child anymore, are they? But boy, do you wish that they would act a little bit more like an adult. So we're going to talk about that as well. How do you get there? Well, you register for it. You go to boundaries.me/family. Boundaries.me/family to get signed up. Sign up. If you can't watch it live Monday night, just like everything else digital in the universe today, once you register, you can watch it anytime you want, as many times as you want. And I'm going to give you some materials that you can use as kind of a study guide. Invite your small group over, invite your friends over, put it up on the big screen if you want, or put your laptop on the table and everybody look around and watch it together. And then you can discuss it. Might find some healing or learning and healing. All righty. Boundaries.me/family to get signed up for that. We always have thought for the day. And I was thinking about the thought for the day, one that I get a lot of questions about. And I am writing a book right now. Finally back in the book writing process. Haven't written Uh, hadn't written a book since The Power of the Other. It's been a few years back. Um, but I'm writing a book right now on trust and how it works, how it breaks down, what to do when it breaks down, how you create it, how you destroy it, how you rebuild it, when it can be rebuilt and when it can't. And one of the questions that I get a lot, with good reason, um, and there is a lot of confusion about, is this question. It sounds something like this. Well, I I I can't I can't excuse me. I think the air conditioner or something in this room has me sneezing. It happened as soon as I moved into this room. Um, let me start that sentence again. They'll say something like, I don't know, I know I'm supposed to forgive him or her, but I can't trust them. So I can't forgive them because they're still the same person doing the same thing. And I don't, and the confusion is this, that a lot of people feel like, they hear a lot about forgiveness. And I'm going to tell you, folks, there are a few more. Uh, if you look at the list of superfoods, those foods that you eat and all of a sudden you get healthy. You see them on YouTube ads and Instagram ads. Eat these three foods, and all of a sudden you'll have 20/20 vision, and perfectly cleansed out veins, and no more joint pain, and the aging process will disappear, and your prostate will look like a minuscule little green English pea. Anyway, you know what I mean? Superfoods, they make you everything right. Well, you know what? There are superfoods in the spiritual, psychological arena. There really are. And one of the most powerful ones of the superfood groups is forgiveness. Now, we get stuck up, bad stuck. We get stuck in forgiveness, hung up. I guess you do get stuck up too, right? Because if we don't forgive somebody, we're sort of being above them in a little bit of a way sometimes, not all the times. But we get stuck in forgiveness because everybody always thinks about it in terms of for the other person. And that's true. What a gift to give to someone, to forgive them. What an incredible gift. How do you feel? How do you feel when you've made a mistake or you've hurt somebody or you failed in some way and the other person says, "Hey, it's all right, I forgive you. Let's get it, we're good. We're good. We're good. Let's go forward. Everything's great. It's wiped out." What an incredible feeling. What an incredible feeling. That's why the gospel literally means good news. That God came down from heaven and say, "Hey guys, we're good. No matter what you've done, we're good. All's forgiven. All you got to do is now you got to receive it to make it valuable to you." And to receive it and make it valuable to us, that really means that we have to say, "Gosh, I did screw up. And now I feel grateful." And see, that's the thing. Forgiveness does do some great things for the other person. And that's where the problem disappears in this sense. Because a lot of people feel like, well, they hurt me. I don't want to give them that, right? Why do I have to do that? They hurt me. Well, you're not giving them anything, really. You're giving it, you're offering it, But it's not going to help them until they do exactly what you wanted them to do, and that's to say, I'm sorry. And what the Bible says is repent, to change their mind. Gosh, I was wrong. Now, that's when it benefits them. Now, isn't that exactly when or what the whole problem is with forgiving somebody? Well, I don't forgive them because they haven't, changed, and I can't trust them, and this, that, and the other. Well, you can't control that side. So that's what it does for them. It won't do anything for them until they admit they're wrong. So you really don't have to worry about this false, like, gift that you're giving somebody without anything good happening, because for them to benefit from it, they've got to admit that they were wrong. But that's on their side of the equation. On your side of the equation, this is where the superfood is. The superfood is that when you forgive them, doesn't matter if they repent, change, confess, whatever. When you forgive them, you're no longer holding something against them. And when we hold something against someone, against is by definition a toxic emotion. When we're against something and we're bitter and we're angry and we're wanting to seek revenge and we want them to pay, we are in a state of conflict. That is war, right? Taken to the extreme. Why do you want to walk around life, sometimes for years, holding on to something negative? Be like going to the doctor and getting a scan, and they find, some kind of cancerous tumor, and you say, well, I'm gonna just hold on to this. No, why don't you get it out of your system? Forgiveness does that. It's when we say, you know what, I'm canceling this debt that you owe me. And you do owe me, by the way. And see, there's nothing wrong with saying somebody did you wrong. You need to do that. See, everything washes out when we do this correctly. When you forgive somebody, you're no longer negating, denying, or having to just, act like it didn't happen, because to forgive somebody, before you forgive somebody, you've got to say somebody wronged you. So you have to blame. You can't forgive without saying somebody was wrong. So that's going to be healing. Then you do that, you get the badness out of you, and then you let it go and you say, I don't know whether you're going to acknowledge it and receive my forgiveness and benefit by it or not, but I'm clean. Now I can move on. And see, that's why it's a superfood. It frees you from the abuser. And you don't need them to do anything for you to forgive. Besides, what if they're dead? What if you could only forgive somebody when they acknowledge that they were wrong? Well, what if the person's dead or won't talk to you, moved away, isn't interested? You'd be stuck with it, right? So we need the other person for two things. One, they need to acknowledge it so they can experience their forgiveness. Same thing with God. God didn't forgive all of humanity's sin in an incremental fashion as they got in line. He wiped out the debt for the whole world. All right. But as I said earlier, not everybody is benefiting from that. Because to benefit from it, then the other side, the person, has to do what I said earlier and say, I was wrong. I am sorry. Will you forgive me? I receive your forgiveness. And now the forgiveness that he gave, they can appropriate. and it does wipe out. You get your coupon clip, but not until you acknowledge it. It's just like a human relationship. I mean, when he uses all these human examples to show us how this stuff works, of course, because relationship only works one way, and he created us in his image, and our life works like his. Somebody does you wrong, you're bummed, you feel it, they say they're sorry, you forgive them, you move on. Somebody does you wrong, it hurts, you name it, they won't do anything about it, you forgive them, you move on, but they get lost. You recognize that word, right? They're separated from the relationship. Now, I started this by talking about forgiveness and trust. But to understand trust and moving forward in this relationship, then you have to understand the difference between forgiveness and trust. Because the most simple construct to understand the difference in forgiveness and trust is time. And I don't mean how long till you trust somebody. That's a different factor. What I mean is look at your watch and the calendar and see what time it is. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, if it is today, right now, forgiveness applies to whatever happened before right now. Forgiveness is about the past. We can't forgive somebody until something has already happened. So forgiveness is always about letting go of something that's already happened. You don't trust somebody for the past, in the past. Trust, remember I said the chief factor is the clock and the calendar. Trust is not about the past. You've already trusted or not trusted. Trust is about the future. See, I can forgive somebody for what they've done to me, but then I've got to make another decision. Am I going to trust this person who wronged me that I have forgiven? Am I going to trust them tomorrow with the same thing? Am I going to get close to them again? Am I going to be vulnerable with them? Am I going to reconcile in the relationship? That's trust. And the answer is not whether or not you've forgiven them. Hopefully, you have forgiven them. Because if you don't, it's going to screw up your trust muscle as well. But if you have forgiven them, said, but they haven't changed, and they haven't given you any reason to think they're going to be different, why would you trust them to be different when nothing is different? You've forgiven them for the past. I forgive you for the past. Now, I can't get back together, or I can't reconcile, or I can't trust you until we see the things happening that would make me trust you. And that's not a switch we turn on and off. That is something that's built in a process over time as somebody establishes a track record of all the factors that go into trust. So, having said all this, I hope that clears up a little bit in this way. I hope it frees you to be able to forgive some people without feeling like that automatically means you're going to trust them for tomorrow. Here's another way to look at it. Forgiveness is free, trust is earned. Forgiveness is free, it's something we give to somebody. Trust is earned. Our behavior. Again, the same way God does it. God forgave everyone. Not everybody is benefiting from that forgiveness. And not everybody is reconciled into a relationship with him until they bend the knee and say, I'm sorry, and I receive your forgiveness. Placing faith in him. But that doesn't mean, when God forgives us, that doesn't mean he automatically, elevates us to some big position in life. That tends to come incrementally with time. There's a lot of principles going to that. One of them is, this is one of the ones that, oh gosh, if we would just do what the stories tell us. One of my favorite ones that he tells, one of my favorite verses, handful of verses, sections, stories, parables, is when he talks about in the parable of the talents, which is just an incredible collection of life principles. He says, to he who has been faithful in little, more will be given. But he who has not been faithful in little, even that will be taken away. Well, how about in your relationships with somebody? You can forgive them for all the failure. But if they haven't been faithful, when you put a little step back in the relationship, you invest something, and they come back and beat you up or gaslight you or control you or something like that, then they actually should lose the little that they've been given that they weren't faithful with. But when you trust somebody and you're vulnerable and they respond with empathy and care and love and support, then you're going to give them more. Wow, that's rocket science. Well, why isn't it not rocket science? I mean, what is it that gets in our heads that clouds these simple truths of how God made the universe? That if something hurts, like the stove, he gave us pain, we feel it, and we pull back, and we don't trust it again until somebody turns the stove off and the thing cools down. This isn't, but oh my gosh, what happens to us? Well, here's what happens a lot of times. Somebody is the chef in the kitchen while you're in there, and you touch the stove and you go, ow. And they say, well, it didn't hurt. What are you griping about? No, I turned it off. It's not on. Well, you're so stupid. Why did you touch it anyway? I've told you, don't do that. Or 1,000 other ways. And you start to doubt yourself. And so now, okay, well, maybe they're right. Maybe it's not hot. Maybe they are taking care of it. Maybe they didn't do that. I'll touch it. And we get burned again. See, it shouldn't work that way. When somebody is faithful with little and we trust them and it comes back well, then we give them more. If they don't, then we hit pause and we talk about it. And if they say, sorry, you're right, I won't do that again, then we hit reset and they get another chance, 70 times 7. But you don't automatically trust just because you've forgiven. That's kind of the principle for the day. So forgive everybody, but make them earn your trust. Make them turn that stove off before you put your hand down on it. Really important. All righty. Here we are. We'll be talking a lot about forgiving and trusting in the family event coming up Monday night. Go to boundaries.me/family to sign up for that webinar, 2-hour webinar coming up Monday, this coming Monday. Go to boundaries.me/family to sign up. Okay, let's talk to Kay, who's watching on YouTube. By the way, you can get the program on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or an orange juice can with a long string. You might ever do that anymore. We did that when I was a kid. Or you can download it as podcast. So Kay is calling us from YouTube. Okay, welcome to the program.
Hi.
Hey there. How are you?
My mother has been diagnosed with BPD, and
And by the
I
way, for people who don't know I'm assuming you're meaning borderline personality disorder.
yes,
Is that what you mean?
yes, yes.
Okay. And who offered her that diagnosis?
The counselor, the licensed counselor that we tried to see, we went put out. My brother and I put an ultimatum out saying that if we cannot have a relationship until we get some type of counseling in, and so she did go. I think she went a couple of times before we came, and then once my brother and I joined, we made it through 2 sessions, and then she quit.
Yeah.
And then now I'm being bombarded. I mean, she also has narcissistic tendencies and very, very manipulative, gaslighting us all the time, being bombarded with continual, I'm sorry, but there's never, it's always sorry for specific incidences maybe that we tried mentioning during the counseling as to gently, the counselor was gently trying to be able to say, this is how you are treating them. They do not want, like that. And so then she would say sorry for one incident, but not, there's not been a change. It's still that gaslighting. It's still that manipulative, things that are happening. And I guess my main question, and of course, I think I've heard it many times before, but I want to know, should I be continuing this relationship? What she wants is just to apologize and everything will back to normal. And I have gotten to where, I'm a single parent. I've been divorced. I want to be strong and say I'm tired of letting all this toxicity into my life, and so I'm to the point where we've not had a relationship other than trying to do the counseling for 2 years. But I need to know, am I doing the right thing?
Wait a minute. You said you tried to do the counseling for 3 years?
No, in the 2 years that I haven't had a relationship with her, we tried doing the counseling is the only communication that we have had.
Yeah, and she bailed out of that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what is the question?
My question is, am I doing the right thing in, I'm a believer, and I believe that we should honor our parents, mother and father, and I want to know, I'm having maybe the guilt feeling of, should I let her back into my life? Should I just, forgive her? I love what you said. It's like just because you forgive something, and there's not a recipe about how to forgive. It's
right. What we talked about in the beginning part of the show really applies here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can forgive her for everything, but, the ability to let her back into your life, so to speak, that's going to depend on a couple of things. One is, what is at risk, right? If she said, I'm a neurosurgeon, and you say, I have headaches, and you say, okay, I'll let you operate on my brain. Well, that's a lot of trust, right? So maybe you don't want to go that far, but what is it? In other words, principle number 1, let's not think of it in terms of all or nothing terms, which is what she wants. She wants, as you said, she wants everything to be back as normal, right? Still there?
She just wants to say sorry and okay, let's all get back together now.
Yeah, everything's wonderful. That's what I meant. It's all or nothing. Well, life doesn't really work that way. Besides, it's never been normal. If she's truly BPD, right? So we don't even know what you're talking about. Mom, when you say back to normal, are you talking about back to chaos? You want us to go back? Is that what you're saying? No, we don't want to do that. Okay. So, so I would forget the all or nothing thing. And what I would think is, what's at risk? Well, you don't want to put your brain at risk and let her do brain surgery, but what is it exactly that becomes problematic for you? In other words, I think it's a good thing, especially with as parents get up in their years, you look at what level of relationship is she capable of that's not injurious to me.
And it's like, even if we get together and talk, because that's what the counselor asked us to do on the very last session, is just try to go like out to eat. So we went to a restaurant, a public place, and there's still the condescending, if it's not my way, the highway, if it's not.
Well, give me a very, very specific example without using descriptives. In other words, when you say condescending, my way, the highway, that's a description of behavior. I want to hear the behavior. Like, what did she actually do?
Well, and I can't think of an example, but if I say something, this is how we like our food, and then it would be, well,
No,
I don't like it that way.
Give me an example.
If
You say, I like broccoli with butter on it. Okay, give me a very specific example. I'm trying to understand exactly what your mother's like. I can't do it through descriptions. I need an example.
At holiday meetings or greetings, we would have lefse. It's a Norwegian thing that we eat, and a lot of us like it with maybe brown sugar and cinnamon or sugar, and she does not like any of that on it. She just wants butter. And if she comes to our house and we have that, she's just very, well, that I don't like it that way. Why do you always do it your way and instead of my way? And so then I'm like, well, this is our house, and we can, okay, we'll get you one. It's like, how dare we didn't think of her immediately? Or I like sweet potatoes, but if I don't clean my house the right way, she'll come.
Okay, let me. Is that injurious to you?
Very, very. I mean, just
really
talking about it right now is I'm like on edge.
Okay. Well, maybe you're not ready. In other words, maybe there's been so much hurt in this relationship that in order for you to figure out what kind of relationship you're going to have with her, maybe there's some healing that's got to take place on your part. Or otherwise, it forces you into an all or nothing thing. You follow me?
So then,
now, do you understand what I'm saying? That if you're
right,
if you're wounded by things that maybe not, let's put it this way, that for everyone would not be wounding, but they are wounding to you because she has wounded you in so many ways that's legitimate hurt that you're walking around with that you need to get healed. Because if you're not, if she's able to injure you, then that forces you to really, really have to get kind of like not have a relationship with her if every interaction is injurious. You follow me?
Yes. And pretty much that kind of is what happens every.
Yeah. Well, let me give you an example. Let me give you an example. Now, I'm not saying that you've done anything wrong. I'm just describing for you what you're telling me, that any kind of interaction with her sends you into a place that's really painful for you. Okay. So I'm just trying to give you a little bit of a picture of what an all or nothing would look like. So I want you to be her. I'm going to be I'm going to be you that maybe has gone through a little more healing. Okay. And you be mom and you come in and say whatever you're going to say, and I'm going to be you. Okay.
Okay. And I'm a mom. Okay.
You're your mom.
And this
Hi,
is
mom.
my mom. Or well, long time I haven't seen you. Where have you been?
Well, just been doing same old stuff I was telling you about, kids and work. Every now and then I get to sit down, watch a movie. How are you?
Oh, I'm just aching all the time. My
Oh,
back
that's
hurts.
hard.
My knee hurts.
Oh, that's terrible. Remember you told me about that. Sorry you're going through that. You want some of
Well,
this?
if you would
You want
come
some of this Norwegian food here I made?
well, only if you have butter on it. Don't put that sugar on.
Well, I do have sugar on this. I can scrape sugar off and give you some with butter. You want that?
Yeah, did you get the right brand that I like?
I
Freddy's?
don't. I doubt it. Probably didn't, Mom. Probably just do it the way way I do it around here. But you're welcome to some if you want it. If you don't want it, that's fine.
Well,
I
no
got some
thanks.
tuna. You want some tuna fish? Got some tuna fish.
No, I hate tuna. You know that.
Oh, I didn't know that, or maybe I did, but I forgot it. Okay, well, I don't have any butter, so I don't know what to tell you. You're welcome to look in the fridge and see what's available for you.
Well, I just can't get up and do this. I'm hurting so bad today.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't you have a seat? I'm gonna go back in the kitchen, talk to the kids, um, and then we'll all sit down. If you do decide that there is something you want, let me know. Okay, I'm gonna hit pause. All right.
Okay.
Now, what we just said, you said the same things to me that you described that she says to you. And what I was trying to model for you there is I do believe, and this is not necessarily the right answer for you or the wrong answer for you, but I know when people are struggling with parents as adults and they get to a place where the parents don't have the power to get to them anymore because those wounds have been healed, then your immune system is stronger. And then you can begin to have a relationship with her and she can be BPD or manipulative or whatever she's going to be. And then I just have my own Norwegian food and say, sorry, mom, I don't have any for you. And she's got to deal with that. But
Right. And
what you're
so
telling me
then
is
my question
you're
is,
not there yet, right? You need some more
right,
healing.
because that's
You
what
need to get
that would be my
stronger.
next question is, what if I'm not wanting to have that relationship?
That's up to you.
Then my question is, am I not honoring my parents? Am I breaking a biblical law? Am I
Are you what?
what? Hello?
Yeah, yeah. You didn't finish your sentence. I didn't hear it. You said,
I said,
"Am
am I
I?"
breaking a law? Am I not honoring my parents? Am I not, or my parent? My father's passed away, but am I not honoring that, or am I breaking a biblical law?
Well, I think in my opinion, it it's not something we have to decide. It's something she gets to decide. So you're not breaking the biblical law. And I kind of hate to put it that way because it's almost like you would only want to do good by your mother because you have to. It's some law. That's not the way the Bible works. The Bible works on a principle of love. And so let's set your woundedness aside for a second, because I don't want you to be injured and wounded. And so before everybody writes me angry emails and saying I'm subjecting her to hurt, I'm not. I'm telling you, if you need to have boundaries and stay separate from her because it's too painful, I said, you've got to do that, right? Because I do and have seen situations where I tell people, do not go talk to your mother. Do not go talk to your father or Uncle Joey who hurt you or whatever. And sometimes that's very, very important. But here's what I'm saying about your future question. To honor your mother would be to say something like, and this isn't the specifics, but it's the principle. It'd be something to say, Mom, I want to have a relationship with you. Okay. You're my mother. And I can have a relationship with you under these circumstances. Now, it's every time we get together, it's very painful for me when you do the things that I've told you about and you don't stop doing them. So I think right now, the level of relationship that we can have that's not too hurtful for me is only in the counselor's office.
Right. And actually, that is what we have said. And then that's why
that's
it's
great.
Gone. And it's stopped because she won't go back. So
okay, but still, you are honoring her. You're honoring her by keeping the invitation open.
Okay.
See, that's different than what you said before. What you said before was, I just don't want to have a relationship and I'm closing the door and there's nothing I would do to ever open it up again. Or that's kind of my adding words, but that's kind of the either or thing. And I'm saying, I do want to honor you. I want to have a relationship. But if we get together and you hit me over the head with a baseball bat every time, I can't do that. So I can only have a relationship with you when you're kind of, when I'm protected. So that's honoring.
Yep.
And if she doesn't want to start there, then she's the one that's saying no, not you. See the difference?
Yes, thank you. Yes, that was very eye-opening and helping. Thank you.
Good. So we shouldn't really, this isn't exactly right, but we ought to try to always think not in terms of all or nothing with somebody that's difficult, but what am I able to do? A, because you can't do more than you're able. And B, what are they able to do? And we have the level of relationship with them that they're able to do, and not trust them to have a relationship that they're incapable of having and that injures me. I used to have 2 German Shepherds at the same time. One of them was a sweetheart. She was so well, behaved. She would hand signal. She would do everything perfectly. I could take her anywhere. Anybody walked up to her, if she had the signal, this is a friend, she would go put her ears back and lick their face off. And she had a brother who was smarter than her, but he had a screw loose and he was a little bit of a, kind of get aggressive first and ask questions later. And if somebody would walk towards me, he might get up and look like he's going to attack them, right? And scare the heck out of people in public places like outdoor restaurants. And I wanted to have a relationship. The dogs' name were Bonnie and Clyde. I wanted to have the same relationship with Clyde and take him everywhere with me that I could take Bonnie. They were partners in crime. That's why we named them that. But I couldn't. And so poor Clyde got left at home at lunchtime. Every time I went to lunch, Bonnie always went with me. I live in California, outdoor restaurants, sit there, people, children come up, loving Bonnie. If Clyde had been there, it would have been injurious to somebody. So there were certain kinds of relationships that I couldn't have with him, but not because I didn't want to honor my dog, right? Honor your parents. It's because he self-selected out with his behavior. So you tell her, I'd like to go to lunch with you, but if I go to lunch with you, then you can't bite me or anybody else. And if she can't not do that, then we have to restrict it to other places like the counselor's office. I hope that helps.
Yes, very much. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your call. It is a great question. We spent a lot of time on it because I think a lot of people can identify with having a difficult parent that you want to honor. But I want to go back to a couple of things. One is she opened the call. A lot of people have this reality saying, my mother's a borderline personality disorder. And I hear this, my wife's a borderline personality disorder, or my whoever. And so therefore I can't have a relationship with them. Well, first of all, that is such a problematic diagnosis now because it gets into the popular world. And there are so many different kinds of people with, quote, BPD, or humans that have BPD characteristics that are not borderline personality disorders and are not unworkable and are not untreatable and all that kind of stuff that you hear, that I would rather everybody do like I was trying to, to talk with Kay about. Let's talk, forget the diagnosis. Let's talk about specific behaviors and not put people into these categories. Why? Because categories are bad? No, it's because when we use a category, we ought to make sure we're talking about the same thing and that it has some useful utility to it. If there's a reason we're using it, so we can, make decisions. That's why we have diagnostic categories. But you got to deal with the behaviors. And so it's only possible to set limits. You can't set limits on a diagnosis, then you're all or nothing. You can, and a lot of people can do this. So they can't be treated. Oh, yes, they can. We've been doing it for 40, 50 years successfully in many, 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 many instances. So it's not all or nothing, but you have to look at specific behaviors and how am I going to respond to this behavior and let them know that this behavior I can't expose myself to. And when you do that, I won't be exposing myself to it. And when you don't, then we can talk or something like that. So I want you to get it specific in that way. Okay. Let's where are we here? Where are we? There we are. Okay. I'm trying to see my list here. I'm all by myself and trying to figure out. Let's go to Andrea, who's calling us from Germany, our first international caller of the day, watches on YouTube. Andrea, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you so much for taking my call.
You're very welcome. Are you German? Or are you just in Germany?
No, I'm just in Germany. I'm here doing a program, a doctoral program. I talked to you many months ago and you really gave me some great advice on anxiety.
Oh, well, that's good because you don't sound anxious. So it must have been perfect advice.
It was perfect advice, but I'm also a subscriber of boundaries.me and I've been going through the program and it's been so helpful.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. A lot of people don't know about boundaries.me. If you're listening, go to the website, boundaries.me, and check it out. All you got to do is subscribe. You get 2 weeks free to look around. There's a bunch of courses on there to help. So, Andrea, we're running up against the clock here soon. Tell me how I can help you.
Well, I have a question, and I'll tell you the question, and if you have any, if you need details, then just go right ahead and ask. I would love to know how to, instead of thinking of myself, sort of this self-preservation mentality, how I can be more others-centered, meaning instead of me always going to me first, like how can I think of the other person instead of making it all about me or being selfish. Does that make sense?
You're trying to be less selfish, less egocentric, and think about others more?
Yes, I'm trying.
I am sorry. Would somebody please call NASA and the NSA and the Air Force, because aliens have invaded the Earth. There's somebody on the Earth who wants to think of other people and not only themselves. I'm scared. I'm going to go hide under the bed. There's an alien in my head. Andrea, I don't know if I've ever gotten this call before where somebody says, I want to be selfish. May I rise up and call you blessed?
No, I'm very serious though.
Oh, I'm serious too. I mean, what would the world be like? How different would it be if everybody woke up every morning and said, how can I think of other people more today? And more may mean for some people at all, right? Now, if you're codependent, you're on a different path. So don't send me that letter either. Okay, because you've been thinking about others too much and not yourself. Andrew, have you had an anxiety disorder?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Well, give me one quick example, and then unfortunately I've got to run. I want you to call me back though next time I'm on, because we got to go deeper into this. But give me one quick example of where you think of yourself only and you like to think of others.
Well, a really quick example would be recently a very good friend of mine called and she was ill. And we had planned to hang out that evening. And my first thought, of course, was, oh, well, I don't want to be around her. And instead of immediately thinking, oh, goodness, how can I support her? You know, what can I do for her? I could go bring her food. And, you know, I eventually got around to that and I told her that. But I just mean my first reaction is just, this is typical. You know, my first reaction is just thinking about self-preservation. That's what I mean.
But you pretty much simultaneously thought about, but since I can't be with her, how can I help her?
Yeah, but that came about, 10 minutes later. You know what I mean? That's a very quick example, but I just mean my original thought process a lot of times.
Well, a lot of times, okay, let me take a stab at this. Do you have a little bit of concern about kind of what other people think or how they're going to feel about you? Like when you set boundaries?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So you do think about others, right? But here, and I wish we had more time to unpack this. I do want you to call me back. But here, you're talking about the delay. You're not talking about whether or not you think of other people. What you said was it took you 10 minutes. I think it probably took you 10 minutes because of the conflict you have of having the immediate thought and saying to her, oh, gosh, I guess we can't get together because I don't want to get sick. If you had been free to immediately, because anybody in their right mind, if the illness is bad enough, anybody would have said, well, we can't get together. I don't want to be around that, but I do want to bring you some soup or something and put it on the front door. See, I think some of what you're talking about has to do with a hypercriticalness of you, which puts you in a conflict and a momentary bind where you're trying to work out, is it okay for me to be thinking I don't want to get the flu or COVID or something? Is it okay? Gosh, I don't know. And by the time you finally work through that anxiety, then you get around to thinking about the other person, where if you didn't have a boundaries conflict, you would have said, well, I guess we can't get together. How can I help you? And it would have been like that.
Right. Yeah.
So I would want you to approach situations with a both and say, what's good for me? What's good for them? And have that felt freely. Okay. If the airplane loses oxygen, put the mask on yourself first, and then you can help the person next to you. But if you're in some psychological danger, it's very difficult for us to think about somebody else when we're defending ourselves. That's not necessarily selfishness. Selfishness is when somebody's not anxious at all and they just do everything they're able to do only in service of themselves and never think about another person.
Okay.
Anyway, I'd go think about that first and then call me back. Okay.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
deal with the conflict and the anxiety, and that'll free you maybe to do what you want to do all along, which it sounds like is to think about the other person. Okay, guys, unfortunately, I have to run. I would love to hang out with you longer. Sometimes I go over the hour mark. I'm bad about that because I like hanging out with you guys. But who cares? I mean, there's no network breathing down our necks, right? We can do that. But today I do have to stop. So it has been good to be with you. Remember the When Family Hurts webinar. When Family Hurts, breaking destructive patterns in your family, family of origin, extended family, adult kids, in-laws, grandparents, all that. We're having a 2-hour live webinar this coming Monday at 5:00 Pacific time. And if you can't watch it then, you just sign up for that one and you can stream it later, but you have to go register. So go do that right now, boundaries.me/family to get signed up. And that's it. I'll see you next time.